So again, our theme today is healing on inner fitness. And as usual, we will start with a bit of a reflection. As I reflect on healing at this time, it seems very relevant. How to protect one's health or recover from a time health was compromised. And I know what that's like physically, but I'm reflecting at this time on what it means spiritually. The true meaning of well-being. And so I go inside into a place of solitude in my inner world. A place where there's less noise of ordinary thoughts or day-to-day life. It's a very special and sacred place inside. Quiet. A place where my mind can relax, not have to work so hard. And as I settle into that space, I already experience more well-being. There's a feeling of less pressure, less stress, less speed. The sense of slowing down, only surrounding myself with the necessary. Simplifying my inner world. And coming to an awareness that's very much in the moment. It feels like a very healthy state. This place of well-being, where the focus is on being, not doing, being. Om Shanti. So welcome again to Inner Fitness. Today the topic is healing. And as usual, we're going to get you to reflect first. There's the idea of physical health and mental health and emotional health, and the focus here is spiritual health. So what are the signs of spiritual health? What is spiritually healthy? What does it feel like? How does it operate? Any thoughts to share? Spiritually healthy.
Mm. Spiritual
Shanti.
Raj.
Go ahead.
Maybe last one to start.
Om Shanti. I was just going to say that spiritually healthy person is whose mind doesn't go up and down, like he's usually in a calm and stable state. It's just like when you're physically healthy, it's not like your temperature goes up or temperature goes down. You're kind of whatever is the normal temperature, you stay there. So similarly, when you're spiritually healthy, your mind doesn't fluctuate much, or your mind stays calm, or you kind of stay at a peaceful state. You don't get too excited, you don't get too down. So
So more
kind of
stable,
like that, yeah, more stable.
consistent. And there's a response here. Thank you, Raj. There's a response here from Hema. My responses are not dependent on external situations. So very connected to what Raj was sharing as well, that fluctuation might be because I am affected, especially through the mind, of what's going on externally. Oh, there's more from Hema. Rather, my responses are not dependent on external situations. Rather, my responses are based on my original dharma. So that original, the pure character and state integrity of the self is intact. Very nice. Jima, did you want to share?
Shanti. I think more or less is the idea remains the same as I was also going to say about stability and
Sorry, Jima,
harmony.
you're in and out just a bit. Just kind of come close to the. There you go.
Sorry. Maybe I could use this to.
You could, or just come closer, whichever is more comfortable for you.
Are you able to hear just like that now? Otherwise,
I
let's
can.
try this one.
No, when you're closer, I can hear you, no problem.
Oh, okay. So it is a little far.
Mm,
So ideas, I think the same as what Raj and Hemavan shared about more of stability inside in my inner world. It's in harmony, and
I'm not sure. It actually might be your connectivity, Jima, because you seem to have frozen just for a split second. Either that or you were incredibly stable. You were demonstrating.
Okay. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I can.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Um, I think it's the idea remains the same as like Raj and Hema been shared about, stability in different situations. Especially the taste comes when there is situation happen outside. That is when I understand that if I am healthy or not. So yeah, whenever any crisis happens or anything small thing happens, do I react, or do I respond according to my based on my um, original state of mind, stability, and then understanding, clarity would be there, and a lot of harmony within. That is what I was thinking about, not reactive at all in any kind of situation, and to be able to go within at that moment, be peaceful and calm and in any kind of situation.
Mm, great. Thank you.
Um, well, agreeing with what everyone else has shared, but I was also thinking about the capacity to recover. Just I guess that's the homeostasis piece, that it's a physical thing, but I was thinking about, spiritually healthy in an unhealthy context. Not even just unhealthy context, but when you're strengthening, physically speaking, if your heart was strong, and you're running, your heart is able to restore back to its original heart rate, like fast if it is healthy. So even like if you got somebody hits your car from behind, if you had strong, stable muscles, there'd probably be injury, but there would be quick recovery. So I was thinking about, yes, there's the healthy context, but how about in that unhealthy environment? Really is a sign of health, that your internal spiritual capacities are able to adjust and adapt and restore. And I think that's what I keep thinking about, restoring back to its original state.
Thank you. There was Hema's on a fire over there. She's got more. Spiritual immunity is high. So able to stay healthy in perhaps unhealthy circumstances. Yeah, it was funny based on what Nora was sharing the other day. Someone was watching, I was just stretching, physically stretching, and they were just saying, oh, it's great that you work on that flexibility. And they asked, are you emotionally flexible as well? I said, sure. And someone was listening. They said, what does that mean? I said, this idea of you bounce back. So definitely, I think the health is revealed in unhealthy situations. So a lot of what I was hearing was how I respond to what's going on, but also how I recover from what's happened. And yes, definitely, it's well known in fitness that some people push very hard, but actually one of the main indicators of one's cardiac health is the amount of time it takes to return to resting heart rate. And obviously, if it's always the pulse is low, that's also very healthy. But how much time does it take to come back to that resting heart rate when it's had some stressor or pressure on it is also a big sign of health. So coming again back to that, it was said earlier, original dharma. And I like that term, original dharma, because that to me is a huge sign of health. When we talk spiritually, to me, that's what health feels like spiritually, is the original dharma of I, the soul, the spirit, is peace. So if there's a lot of peace in my inner world, this is a sign of being very healthy. And if I easily become peaceless by very small things, then maybe there isn't as much health. And if I'm in a peaceless situation that puts demands on me, how easy am I able to return to that state of peace? So peace has always felt like a sign of health to me, this spiritual peace. And so we have the term Om Shanti that usually we go up to people and say, how are you? Right? As in, how's your health? How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? Well, that's what Om Shanti is for us. How are you doing? Are you Om Shanti? Are you peaceful? Are you in that state of well-being? It is the top cry on the planet, and because this is the sign of such incredible well-being. So that state of peace, even in challenging or peaceless situations, very healthy. So signs of health, I think everyone covered really beautifully: the stability, the clarity, the peace, the response capacity, the immunity that is not affected. My integrity as a soul stays intact. But what happens when I'm not there? I've been injured, that I have experienced some sort of spiritual separation from that state of well-being. what does that process of healing look like? And, when we look at spaces of healing, hospitals, of course, come to mind. The hope is that they're always sort of very calm, quiet, peaceful spaces. The idea that the very state I'm trying to achieve, the medicine I take, is actually the same as the state I'm trying to achieve. So I want to experience peace in order to activate that capacity in myself. And just before coming into the session, and I'm thinking we might dedicate our evening meditation to this because it really touched my heart, is we keep saying repeatedly, the frontline workers are the heroes. The frontline workers are the heroes, the frontline healthcare providers. The level of stress that those frontline healthcare providers are operating under is incredible, very intense, and they're asked to create a space of healing and be a resource for healing, although they themselves are not operating in a very healthy state. And I think the reason it touched me is because I've seen in my life, I'm not a frontline health provider, and I have been given many, many opportunities during this whole period to have peaceful experiences, and they have not. They have not. They've had back-to-back shifts and all sorts of things. They have not been given that opportunity, yet they're the ones who have to create a healthy environment for others, and they don't get one. So I thought, can we create one subtly for them? So that's why I was thinking perhaps the meditation tonight might be about that. But it really touched me because I know how important it is that it be a certain context when we're healing. We want a certain context, a certain environment for that healing to happen. To me, it's almost like a cocoon. So the idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly comes into my mind is when we talk about healing, we're talking about really spiritually returning back to that original dharma or original stage. So I feel this separation, this fissure, this loss of connection, disconnect with my original state of being, which is very peaceful, my original religion, we call it, of the soul. That's a very profound trauma, perhaps the deepest trauma that a soul can experience, is to be separated from its dharma or religion. I don't know if there's anything deeper than that, because that's really the foundation of how I function, is that dharma. So this disconnect, and of course religion means to reconnect, but that separation. So if the original dharma of every soul is peace, and we're not feeling peaceless. I just left a group of souls, and didn't seem very peaceful. They seemed quite disturbed by everything going on. And all I could feel was, am I connected to my dharma? Am I connected to that peace? Can I somehow create a peaceful influence amidst the situation? So to be disconnected is really very traumatic to the soul. And we tend to think when we're in that state, when we're feeling peaceless, we start to blame things outside for why we feel peaceless. And unfortunately, that is not the path to healing. I have certainly seen in a physical sense many times that souls physically are disconnected from the ideal way of using the body. So this is a physical example. We're exploring spiritual, but just to consider the physical example, there's an ideal way to use this body, and we're very disconnected from that. And so there starts to be pains and aches and imbalances and dysfunctions and overuse, etc., stressors,
because I am not using this body properly. And then we tend to look for an external solution, an operation, a medication, a distraction to try and address that. You know, we get ergonomic chairs and we do all sorts of things, but do we ever look at going back into the proper alignment? You know, I mean, I could get an operation, but it will come back. I could take medication, but it will come back. I could be distracted, but it will come back. Get a massage, it will come back because I'm still using the body in an unhealthy way. And so the responsibility is on me to educate what is healthy use of the body, to understand that, and then develop a program so that I can start to really focus on healthy use. And usually we require a specialist, the help of a specialist, because we may not have a clue. And so I've always really appreciated physical healthcare providers who educate, don't just say, do this or give you a minute, but they actually educate you as to what is going on so that I can deeply understand. And so then I'm going to have to embark on a program of doing something very different from what I've gotten used to doing. And I'd say that's the most challenging thing to ask someone if I've got deep habits of doing things one way physically, and now I'm asked to do it another way. It's really, really challenging. And I do know some souls who it's very expensive, but they feel it's worthwhile, who use a physical trainer 5 days a week. They're with a physical trainer, a personal trainer, because they know they need that level of support every day. That's expensive, but they feel it's worth it for their physical health. And in the long term, yes, perhaps it is. Spiritually, what does that look like? So I'm experiencing peacelessness, which is a sign of an unhealthy state. There's many, many colors of peacelessness: irritation, upset, angry, confused, disoriented. It just goes on and on. Many, many forms, small and big, of peacelessness. And again, what we tend to do is it's something outside. I have too much work. That person did this to me. That situation is too demanding. We just keep going outside. And we say, let me reduce my workload, or let me move away from that person. And temporarily, it seems to alleviate, but it hasn't actually identified the problem. There is some misalignment in me that is creating that peacelessness in that situation or interaction. And I could move away. It's a bit like a medication. I could move away for a moment and feel like it's alleviated, but of course it will come back because the issue was never addressed. I haven't actually healed the problem. And I find this very interesting because a soul said something yesterday in a conversation. I agreed 200%, because I know for myself, it has gotten so crazy busy. I don't even know what to do. There is so much going on, so many projects, so much that's supposed to happen. And someone once said to me, do you ever say no? And it's like, how can you say no to God? How do you do that? How do you say no to something that is so connected to what you feel is a deep sense of purpose? How do you say no to that? So no, that's not happening. So lots going on. And anyways, the soul was sharing. They also have a very full plate. And we're starting to see some kind of falling apart at the seams, but a very full plate. And they said,
yeah, it's not about reducing the stuff on the plate. She says, I actually appreciate this situation. I appreciate how full it is because there's something here that I have to learn, I have to figure out how to operate in a healthy way in this very full situation. I'm not going to say busy because I think busy isn't very healthy, but this very full situation, how do I stay intact in this very, very robust situation? And I agreed completely. What she was suggesting is this is a wonderful healing opportunity because we often think of healing, and I think this came up a lot. I heard it a lot that we're in a lockdown, we're in a quarantine, so we've got lots of time for solitude. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if that's my scenario, but there was such a strong, strong belief that there needs to be complete nothing going on for healing to happen. And there does need to be very little going on for healing to happen. But at what level does that little going on need to be happening? Is it that there physically needs to be little going on? Because I could physically have nothing going on and still be very crazy inside. Or I could have a lot going on and it's just so serene, so simple, so essenceful inside. I'm in the right alignment inside. And there's one soul who sometimes connecting with on projects, and they make me laugh because every single time I call them, I finally said, you must have 8 arms. Because every time I call them, I can hear sound effects in the back. They've got about 20 different things going on simultaneously. It's a wonder. If I don't think people are aware of how much this soul is doing. They've got so much going on. And they're always very light and very accurate and just keep going, no sign of falling apart, they just stay, so what alignment is that soul in? That's where we want that peace, that solitude is at a very subtle level, the alignment of the self. Because again, I could remove everything and still be in a very unhealthy alignment. So the healing isn't going to happen. Or I could have lots going on outside, but really simple, simple place inside that's actually quite healthy and energizing and healing. So what is that alignment? We know with the body, when it's in a healing state, sometimes they even put a cast or a brace or something on to support the proper alignment happening. I remember when it's really bad when another student had fractured their elbow, and it was just before going off to facilitate a retreat, and it was a movement retreat, and they were told, you have to keep them in this stabilized in this position. I'm watching them and I said, I'll do it. I'll demonstrate. You don't move around at all. But sure enough, they were just swinging that thing all over the place. And it kind of fascinated me because this is like the worst possible thing to be doing for physical healing. But I sort of felt, but I think they're spiritually aligned. I can feel that they're very spiritually aligned. And somehow that was making up for the lack of physical alignment. They actually healed despite the crazy things they were doing. So spiritual alignment's really powerful for emotional, mental, and physical healing. Spiritual alignment is super, super powerful. Very important. So what is that spiritual alignment? And of course, we share it so many times in Raj Yoga courses and in workshops. It's super, super simple. We say this is something that has been taught by God himself, who is the top personal trainer on well-being, spiritual well-being. So that soul can completely tell us proper alignment and demonstrate it themselves. And that beautiful alignment is, we call it soul consciousness. This alignment of considering myself to be a soul. So we're going to ask you now, because that's what we call it. It's a bit like in physical training, we'll say, well, really good alignment is when you have neutral pelvic placement or your sacroiliac joint is on. So that's what it's called. But what is actually happening? So then the practitioner has to describe or explain what's going on with that neutral line, what it feels like, what do I do? So we say soul consciousness is healthy alignment for me, the soul, that whether nothing's going on or a lot is going on, I can heal in those circumstances. I wish we could give this teaching of soul consciousness to all the frontline healthcare providers so that they can take care of themselves in this stressful situation. But, we say soul consciousness, but what exactly am I doing? What does it feel like? What do I do? So I'm going to throw it back to you, because I know all of you are advanced practitioners of soul consciousness. If you had to explain, if you were with a frontline healthcare provider and you had to explain to them what they need to do, it's to be soul conscious. But exactly what are you going to tell them to do so that they can take care of themselves? What would you tell them? What should they do? What does soul conscious mean? What exactly should they be doing? I don't know if you're doing it right now, but you can share. There's a lot of silence and staring going on, but you can share. How would you tell someone to be soul conscious?
Well, just you remind them that we are all souls, and then we're on this journey. We are in this body, but when we're in a soul conscious state, then we just remember that lesson that we're all souls, and we are doing our part in this drama, and then God is the supreme soul, and just sit and connect with God. Remember God, I guess. That's what my understanding is.
Thank you, Raj. So something that happens, it was very interesting. It was a fitness instructor actually who was describing their session with a personal trainer, and they were doing an exercise called a lat pull down. So there's that machine. I'm sure you've seen it. Lat pull down. And so the personal trainer said, "Okay, we're going to do 8 reps of lat pull down. Go for it." And so the fitness instructor, who's well trained, knows it all, sits down and starts to do it. And the personal trainer says, "Stop. What are you doing?" And although they were told do a lat pull down, they were not given the details of exactly what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to. So they started to say, "Where should you feel?" And I said, "Well, obviously in my lats." He said, no, actually, it's not just your lats. And they went into it. Was very beautiful, because to say do this isn't quite the full instruction, because it leaves us to do whatever. If I say to you, consider yourself to be a soul, it kind of leaves you to do whatever you think that means, or whatever. And so I may not actually be taking full benefit of the instruction if I don't get more details. So what might some of those details be if I'm telling someone to consider themselves to be a soul? What kind of details can I give them? And obviously, as you're experiencing yourself, you can just speak from what you yourself are experiencing.
Um, Sandy, for me, being soul conscious, it needs that knowledge of a soul being, the original quality of soul being peace, very deep, feeling of peace within, and quite detached myself from when I consider that I am soul in this body. Um, so I have the experience of concentrating all my energy in that point of peace, of that beautiful feeling of peace. And I feel quite, detached from the energy outside, um, and the and also at that moment a lot of feeling of lightness, um, and um, yeah, more to do, I think, is not affected, at that moment when I'm in that state of soul consciousness. I'm in that deep peace and really feeling of detached, that I don't feel much affected by what is going on outside. That is the feeling for me.
Great. Thank you, Dima. Anyone else want to teach me how to consider myself to be a soul? I am a frontline healthcare provider and I'm pretty close to the breaking point. What will you tell me?
I was in a similar conversation with someone yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
She was just recently hired as a contact tracer. And it's very, very chaotic. And you can tell it's an older soul because she was sharing, she was feeling an immense sadness that it was something deeper. It was a spiritual thing. You could feel the soul was speaking. And so we were talking about soul consciousness. And it was two things, which has really been on my mind a lot, is that I really need to be in that stage, like that feeling of that reality. Because I think we all have had those situations where we get to share, trying to refine a way how we share. And you feel that in those moments when you're actually there, something transfers. So it was a lot about, aside from that which really what stayed with me, which I wanted to share, but the other part was that feeling of that we are eternal, that peace, and a greater purpose. And that really, I think, changed even the direction of the conversation and the feelings around what was happening. And so that was, I guess, the thoughts that came from me.
Emma, did you want to share anything? It is, yeah. Maybe it's going in the chat box. Yeah, obviously this reflects on what is my own practice. And I always appreciate when I'm listening to, I know I've mentioned it before, but a trainer, or, Sister Tanya's doing the breath workshops. I can see that how they're trying to figure out very concrete. Oh, thank you. There you go. So Hemashare, you are a soul playing a role. Look at the bigger picture. But very concrete, almost kinesthetic cues that is going to help the person feel in a very concrete. So, and it's certainly the way it's taught, if you will, by God, the greatest trainer on spirituality. So I've noticed, I mean, I don't know whether it works for all souls, but I've noticed when Tanya, for example, physically is trying to cue souls to turn on that pelvic stability, she'll do things like, you know, keep your feet on the floor. You can try it now if you like. Keep your feet on the floor, but feel your thighs, put your hands on your thighs and feel your thighs trying to press, lift up into your hands, but keep your feet on the floor. And she's giving a very specific action that may or may not work. It depends whether or not those words are meaningful and can be converted. But I always liked how it's very concrete, kinesthetic, and specific. And then what comes afterwards is the result of doing that is that you'll feel longer through the lower back. So there's two things: what I need to do and the result of doing it. And sometimes we jump to the result and miss the what. So the result is I will feel peaceful and lighter and connect to this, that, and the other. And that's really important so that I know I'm doing the thing. But what exactly am I supposed to do? So if I go to someone and say, you are a peaceful being, I'll get people say, oh yeah, I can feel that right here. Yeah, I'm here in my heart, or I'm diffused through the universe, and it's all very, like, I've missed a key piece of information to help. I've never mentioned that they were a point behind the forehead. I never broke that down. I never mentioned you are not the body. I never mentioned some key information, very concrete, very specific. Yes, they may not be able to do anything with it at that moment, but it's pretty specific. And so I have to look at what is my own practice. Is it specific, really specific, and following the directions completely? The directions we've been given is you are a subtle, invisible, tiny, tiny point. And some say, yeah, I know, and it doesn't really do anything. Well, it is what I am. Like that hopefully is helping me to get into that specific alignment. I am separate from the body. I am residing behind the forehead, operating from there, going into very specific things. So I know where to place my attention, what I'm trying to feel, what I'm trying to do. It's a very specific. You see it in physical fitness. The alignment, which is quite subtle, is very specific, and it takes a lot of care for trainers to find the cues. And they're very concrete. It's not like, well, you should feel freer and greater range of motion, and that's not going to work. That's the benefits if they can get it. But what exactly are they trying to get? Like, what are they trying to do? So for the self, whatever specific, but it's to me, it's something that every time I'm seated, I'm inspired. What is the alignment? What exactly am I trying? Rather than jumping far ahead, because suddenly I'm jumping ahead and I haven't got the alignment, so I'm really just doing old stuff. What exactly does it mean to say I am a soul? What am I doing? That alignment is what makes it possible to juggle things and respond to things and be in difficult situations and bounce back and all of that alignment. So it's really worthwhile to take a moment reflecting on what exactly is going on. I think Nora's going to share.
When you were sharing that, this is how God teaches us. I was thinking a lot about how much actually a client depends on watching the alignment of the trainer. And if the trainer is not in that alignment, but the client might not even know it, they don't know they might be emulating something. So it does, at least personally for me, feel like what's being shared and what's probably happening on a subtle level that you're copying.
Yeah, absolutely. We have this word yoga, and we actually suggest that yoga is actually how teaching really is a huge part of teaching. Is this yoga that I become a lawyer by spending a lot of time around a lawyer. I become a and the quality of that lawyer will determine the quality of lawyer I become. So I always found it fun, you know, if someone's looking for a hairdresser, what I always do is look at the hairdresser's hair. It's like I'm like, I don't know if I want to use that hairdresser because they look crazy. So this idea definitely that you can see the crop of clients that come from different trainers. You can tell by the trainer themselves. We had one trainer who left us. They moved away. He was super popular, and oddly enough, I think his knowledge base was phenomenal. His training, his own training standards were very good, but his character was on a very high level, and I think that's why souls really, really liked him. But he trained everyone from the mayor on down. Everybody loved him. And so I'd always look out and see all these people. And I actually even trained with him. And he spent a really good chunk of time on one exercise. It must have been 45 minutes on one exercise. And he was so good at demonstrating it, on telling me exactly what I should feel and do with my alignment. What do this with your alignment, position this here, hands go here. It was so precise. And he says, you should feel this, and I shouldn't be able to do that. It was so, I enjoyed it from a spiritual perspective. I enjoyed it so much because it had all the pieces of how to be able to create a change. When you're dealing with an adult, they have lots of bad habits. Now, we are beings who have had, and we suggest, many births of bad habits, misalignment. So dealing with that is a little bit tricky. If you're self-taught, yeah, then you're really attached to your own ideas, and it's bad. It's really bad. So it's really critical that you trust the trainer, but also that they have that capacity to model it and communicate it. And I have deep respect. I'm surrounded by amazing trainers. I've watched them, and they are amazing at modeling it and communicating. And I sometimes just eavesdrop, not because I want to steal, I just enjoy. I know how much work they've done to figure out what is the thing I need to say, or what kind of situation do I need to set up here so the client can feel this subtle thing I want them to feel, and not just do what they've always done when I give them a cue. It's really fascinating, because healing will not happen if I became unhealthy by what I was doing and I continued doing that. Healing cannot happen. And so this change in what I'm doing internally, even though I'm using new words, I could still be doing the old thing. And so I have to get quite specific and clear, not too far ahead of myself. Really specific and clear. What am I doing when I say I'm practicing soul consciousness? And I've always appreciated how some of the most rudimentary, the first things we're told is you are a point, you are separate from the body. You are a point seated on the throne of the forehead. You are separate from the body, and yes, you are eternal. So just mastering that
is a challenge. When you say to someone you are a soul, it's amazing what kinds of different ideas they have of what that means. Absolutely amazing. It's all over the map. So our teacher or a trainer, God has to get quite specific. He says, okay, I could say you're a soul, but whoa, where you go when I say that's crazy. So let me give you a few more details so that you actually get to experience the real healthy thing. And you'll know because you'll get those benefits of being stable, of being clear, of being peaceful, better immunity, better recovery when you experience what we might call, say, a storm or anything like this, better recovery. So I find using this time, it's not just going to solitude. Again, you might still be very full, very busy schedules, but a chance to assess alignment. And I find that very exciting. Still have time to assess our alignment. And I'm feeling how important it is. I know Nora brought up how important it is to get it right, because there are many souls who will need you to be modeling it. They may not, the words may not work. They need us to be modeling the real thing. That's the only way that they'll be able to get the transmission, is through us modeling the real thing. So for the sake of the self and for the sake of others, really feeling how critical it is. So I have no hints to share. It's something I think we each have to kind of sort out. But knowing good alignment is necessary for healing to happen. So I'm looking at the time. We'll end with a little bit of a reflection. I bring this physical body into a quiet and still place, not asking it to perform actions, allowing it to be at rest. The reason being that I need all of my attention to focus on this subtle inner incognito act of self-alignment. I feel almost immediately the pull of attachments. They don't want me to align, because the alignment is so much about detaching. I bring all my attention to the area of the physical eyes, the rest of the body fading out of focus. That feeling of looking out through the eyes, out into the physical world. And then going behind the eyes. Not so much observing the world outside, but giving attention to the one observing me, the observer. This feeling of looking out to the windows of the eyes, and this body feeling like a tall building. I'm seated on the top floor, looking out through the windows of the eyes, the body dangling down below. This entire body depends on me to function. I'm the power source, the battery.
the life that is fueling this body. This body is so big compared to me. It's a wonder how I, this tiny, tiny point of living energy, able to think and feel and observe how I am fueling, giving life to this entire body, knowing I am separate, knowing my time with this body is finite. It's okay. It's okay that I'm not this body. I am eternal. I've traveled through time and will continue to travel. Me, this tiny spark of living, thinking, feeling energy. Yes, I feel all the attachments trying to pull my awareness into the body. That's why I practice over and over. Keep practicing that alignment, the healthy alignment of being a soul. Om Shanti. That concludes our session today. Tomorrow night we have drop-in meditation, 6:30 to 7:30, and I think we will dedicate it to frontline healthcare providers. So if you're able to join, thank you for joining today. Really value all of your sharing. It's wonderful. Until next time, and I know I should know what the theme is, but I have no idea. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for joining. Om Shanti. Wishing you a very healthy week. Thank you so much, Hema, as well. Om Shanti.